What up, boys? It's Undead. We over here now. And we're back. We're going to do a Temple of Sethraliss walkthrough for Outlaw Rogue. Just talk about all the little things. It's a lot of little things in this dungeon rather than anything insane, but the little things add up and make the spec really good. It's worth noting that if you're running 2 rogues in your group, it can be beneficial for one of them to play Assassination. Assassination has a very good damage profile for this dungeon, but it doesn't have the utility that Outlaw does. So I think Double Outlaw is still very good. May actually even be better than Outlaw and Assassination, but this is one of the dungeons where Assassination can shine. So we'll talk about the packs at the beginning. Actually, no, we'll talk about Shrouds first. There's a couple different ways to pull this, and there's a couple different Shrouds that you'll use. So the first one's like the old school Season 1 way, where you will pre-shroud. Now, if you shroud before you enter a keystone, the remaining duration on shroud will still exist after the key starts, and the cooldown will be reset. So if you press shroud at like 1 on the timer, you'll have 14 seconds of shroud, and then the 10 seconds will tick down from when you start the key, and then you'll have an extra 4 seconds of shroud, right? So you'll have 4 seconds of shroud. As soon as the gate opens, you'll have 4 seconds, and then you'll be able to shroud again. So if you're going left, if you're doing nothing at the beginning, I recommend doing this. So if you're skipping this pack, you're skipping that pack, and you're going left side, I would pre-shroud, and you walk down here, and then it's usually about in here that you'll re-shroud. Like right here, you'll hit shroud again. Normally there's a mob here. Hold on, let me get myself into a group. Normal has like so much weird shit. There's like little things that are different in normal that's strange to me. So usually there's a mob right here. You'll sap him so you can jump over here. And then I almost missed a distract there. You'll distract here so you can find... Wait, is the stealth boy not here either? Holy shit, the stealth guy is not here on normal either. Okay. So there's a stealth boy right there. You distract so that he doesn't see you when you're coming down. The distract isn't necessary, but it makes it like foolproof. You can get the sap before he stuns you without distracting, but it's worth doing and making it take an extra second or two to make sure you get the sap. So you sap here, and then you'll shroud and you walk around here. Your team comes with you, and then you'll be down here, and you're usually pulling this pack. That's one of the shrouds. The other shroud, if you go right side, or if you just pull this pack, the shroud on the left is the same. If you're pulling this pack and then going to the left, it's the same. It just, you don't need to pre-shroud for it. But a lot of pulls, a lot of groups will pull these 3 mobs plus this guy as a first pull of the dungeon. In Fort Week, you might even lust this. So it's a 4-pack of these 4 mobs. And then you'll shroud here. The safest way to do this is just distract to the right, come around to the left, sap this boy. I guess all the stealth guys aren't here on normal. So there's usually stealth boy here, and then there's some stealth boys at the bottom too. And you can know where the stealth boys are based on where the hatchlings are. The hatchlings are each attached to a stealth lad, and they follow him around. Which makes me think that there is one. Yeah, there is one here. You sap him, it breaks him out of stealth. And there's another guy patting around over here. Right? No, that's a critter. That's not him. I guess the pat isn't here on normal either. But that's just how you can... If you see a Crawless Catchling, there's a stealth boy there. So if you're trying to find him, that's where he's at. So in your shroud, basically you're just shrouding that pack. The packet red. And then you usually do this pack, and then you fight the boss. But then let's talk about these mobs. I guess this pack has everything in it. Except for the stealth guy? Yeah, except stealth. We'll talk about the stealth later then. So Stonefist just hits the tank pretty hard, and he does an AoE that knocks you back and also does damage to you. There's nothing you can really do about that. Only thing worth noting with Stonefist is they can't be stunned. So if you're between the eyesing them, you're wasting a little bit of damage. Like, you're wasting overall damage for the sake of having priority damage on the Stonefist, which is usually the play. And typically I would ignore the fact that they can't be stunned, but it's just something worth noting. The Crowlisk pups are pretty irrelevant if you're pulling like normal sized packs. Something you saw in the MDI was teams would sprint pot or just sprint down here and pull like everything, like pretty much all this shit just all the way down. Like, you'd skip the first pack and you just pull everything else, or you'd skip the first 2 packs and pull all this shit. And if there's enough Crawlisk pups, it's actually really obnoxious for the healer. They charge the furthest target and interrupt their spell casting when they charge to them. However, you can LOS that. So if you're, like, say we're fighting, like, this is, I'll use MDI as an example just because it's the best one I have. So we would usually fight them, like, right here. So our healer could just bounce between Skull and, like, Purplish. Not that far, but they would just, like, bounce back in between here. They'd get a heal off. They'd bounce. They didn't get stunned. Get a heal. Bounce. Get a heal. Bounce. And then the Crawlisk pups wouldn't charge anybody. But it's mostly irrelevant on, like, live keys. They just get cleaved down. They're not really worth thinking about. The Dust Devils will cast a heal and a lightning bolt. This is where all your kicks should be going. So typically you'll focus that and then be handling focus kicks on the Dust Devil. Within your group you can get every kick. Heal's obviously the most important because you don't want it to heal, but you want to kick everything because a lightning bolt does do big damage. And all the casts will recast if you don't kick. So you can gouge to delay a heal, but you'll have to kick it eventually. And then the marksmans cast power shot and shoot. It's worth spending if you don't need the priority damage on Stonefist. It's 100% worth spending all your between the eyes on the marksman. It'll interrupt their shoot, which is just targets random people, and he just shoots, like that's his auto attack. He doesn't care about the tank really. And then power shot can be interrupted with gouge and will not recast. So power shot's like the big thing. It's the, like, piercing arrow that hits everybody in a line. So you can stun that, you can gouge that, you can blind that, you can do whatever to that to stop that. So be on the lookout for that. So usually I'll focus the Dust Devil to make sure I don't miss kicks. And then if there's not a Stonefist in the pack, I'll be focusing down the marksman. If there is a Stonefist, I'll be focusing the Stonefist, and every now and then maybe I'll throw one of my between the eyes at the marksman if he happens to be casting a power shot, or if, like, damage is getting pretty spicy on the group, like maybe you throw a stun at him just to keep him from owning. And then I try to be gouging all the power shots I can too. Especially important when there's more than one in the group. But you can just dodge the power shots as well. And that's all the trash, I guess, except for the Shrouded Fangs. So Shrouded Fangs will cast Blade Flurry, which makes them AoE in a cone in front of them. So you just have to be careful about your positioning on them, as well as if they're stunned during the cast isn't that long, but it's long enough that you can stun it. If they're stunned during the cast, they won't finish the cast and they won't get the Blade Flurry. So keep an eye out on that too, because you can use your between the eyes on them. Obviously them taking bonus damage is good as well. That's it for the trash up here. It's pretty simple. It's kick Dust Devil, don't let marksman and the other boys cast their shit. Outlaw does a really good job with gouge and stuns of disrupting the marksman. And then we have the boss. There's actually, so the boss has 2 phases, as you probably all know. In one phase, Adderus is the boy and he casts Cyclone Strikes, while Aspix casts Jolt on you, on random dudes. In the other phase, Aspix is the boy, he casts Gusts on you, and Adderus does, like, his charge around shit and whatever. The phase worth noting that Outlaw is exceptionally good at is when you're fighting Aspix, or when you're fighting Adderus and Aspix has the lightning shield. So I've been trying to figure out the entire expansion exactly how the spell queuing works on Aspix for his jolts, and then he also does conduction where he puts the circle around one random player and then they explode for big damage in that AoE when it expires, and then he'll cast Static Shock when the phase shifts, which is big AoE damage. So depending on how you kick, if you choose to kick Aspix, on how you kick and how his, like, spell lockout windows work out, you can sometimes get an overlap where you get conduction into Static Shock, which means that if the person that got the conduction doesn't have an immunity, they're probably going to get one shot by the combo, because it's gonna land at the same time. So there's 2 ways to avoid it that I'm positive work. One is kick every cast on Aspix. He'll cast Jolt 3 times. If you kick all 3, you won't get the overlap. Or don't kick any of them. Those two situations, you won't get the conduction Static Shock overlap. And I haven't solved for what makes the other shit happen. I think it's if you let the first 2 casts go off, sometimes he'll cast Jolt a 3rd time before he conductions, and if you kick that one, you'll get the overlap. I'm pretty sure that's how you get the bad overlap, and then you can also get it if you kick the second. Depending on how late you kick the second one, you can get the bad overlap, just because they're both the same school, so when you kick him, it locks out of the school, and he's on like a timer for when he casts conduction. So if the timer for when he gets cast conduction, like if it's pushed back far enough that he casts it and then it's time to transition and he doesn't sneak a Jolt in after the conduction, he'll, like, you just get owned. I guess if you just kick the first 2, you won't get the overlap either. So as long as you get the first 2, the 3rd one comes after the conduction, and then you won't get the overlap, but you should still probably kick it. So that's Focus Macro is really good for that. Outlaw is really good for that because of our bigger range. Because you don't want to target Aspects, because he's going to have the lightning shield when you go to kick, right? So you don't want to actually target him. So this is a boss where Focus Macros are really important, and if you're not playing with them yet, I cannot recommend it enough. If you want to take Mythic Plus seriously, or even if you don't, it takes 2 seconds to make. I wonder if I guess I could just link this in the, yeah, I'll link this in the description. And then you'll replace kick with whatever your kick is if you're not playing rogue. It works the same for every class. And then you make a macro to set your focus as well. Like I have one where, and then I have this bound. That's not it. It's this boy. No, that's not it. Which fucking one is it? Oh, it's this boy. So slash focus is the macro that if you just hit this bind when you're targeting something, it'll make it your focus. And then like you have a bunch of other binds to do stuff to interact with your focus. But anyways, that's in the Adderus phase. You want to make sure you kick at least the first 2 jolts, preferably all 3. Even ranged will be able to kick. You'll be able to kick every one because he only casts 3 per phase. You just save your kicks at the end of the previous phase if you're ranged, so that you have it up during this. Other thing to note, conduction. When Aspect casts conduction, there's a brief period where I'll pull the boss here and you'll see, because he should cast on me with me being the only person. There's a brief period where you'll be able to see the target of Aspects when he casts conduction, and if you vanish, if it's on you and you vanish, he will not recast. If you miss the vanish after it's on you, you can cloak it off and it'll do no damage to anybody. Like the debuff just disappears and it's gone. So rogues have a lot of ways to deal with this, and this is an advantage of Outlaw over Assassination. Assassination has to use Vanish as a DPS cooldown, whereas Outlaw can use Vanish for the conduction. You just lose too much as Sin by not vanishing for damage. And that's it, really. If one of the bosses is really low, and you want to kill it so you don't have to transition back to him, you can cloak and Blade Flurry and hit like the off-target boss that has the lightning shield. So that's worth noting as well. And it's always Adderus first. So let's fight. Like here, we'll flurry with cloak up, and I won't take any of the damage. Now we just dodge our Cyclone Strike. Yoink yoink. You want to be kind of conscious of where you're standing too for Cyclone Strike. It's in a perfect world, the Cyclone Strike won't be targeted. Here you go. I'll vanish that conduction off. Oh shit. Well, it would have worked, but I reset the boss. Damn, they have a quick reset. That's actually something to note, resetting the boss with vanish. I forgot that it's so quick. We did this in MDI as well. If you're worried about, like, cause this guy Adderus just kind of goes crazy and dashes all around here. So you don't have, like, you kind of have to fight these mobs in these corners and shit, so you don't get hit by it. So if you want to utilize this space, I recommend you vanish reset the boss, so that the boss isn't there and he won't be charging around while you're, like, fighting in here, because you could pull the boss while you're fighting that pack. He resets if you run up the stairs, but it's just obnoxious. Anyways, let's do this again without vanishing, and that's that. Is this Bigwigs they added? I missed that jolt. I was setting the focus. Bigwigs they added, putting the skulls and shit on it. Also, you want to make sure, like, you want to be careful how close you get to the boy, because he will randomly just melee dudes that come within range of him. We'll show you the cloak thing here. Cloak. Oh, I don't have cloak. God damn it, man. I guess we'll make this boss last a little bit. Like, we're not going to kill him here. Also note about feint here. You have to have feinted before the static shock cast ends for it to work. It does work on static shock, but it's kind of like Jabady in that you'd think you could feint before the damage hits you because it has like a travel time, but it doesn't work that way. You have to have feint cast and the buff applied to you before Aspect's cast finishes in order for feint to work. So that's just something to pay attention to. Make sure you feint early on the static shock. Alright, and we'll have cloak for this one, so we'll show you this. When Adderus comes back, we'll have cloak for the conduction as long as we don't kill him, which we won't, because we're going to be a good boy. Then arc dash happens and you move. Make sure you get a kick so boss moves with you. You can keep hitting the boss. Alright, we're not going to kill either. And then we transition. This boy doesn't have lightning shield anymore. I'm just going to melee him so that he doesn't die. Dodge cyclone. See, I fucked up. I pointed cyclone towards Aspects. I know it feels weird to not be standing behind the boss, but you do want to, because it makes it much harder to get the kick, right? See, it's on me, we cloak, it's not on me. The boss is dead. Because you ideally don't want the Cyclone Strike to point at Aspects, because it makes it much harder to kick. Now, as we walk down here, we're going to see a lot of repeat mobs for the rest of the dungeon. Well, not for the rest of the dungeon, for this next section. They all function the same way. They all need one person in charge of kicking them. Melee can get every kick on every boy every time. Crawlus Rider's kick is the lightning shield, or electric scales, or whatever it's called. Electrified scales. That puts the lightning shield mechanic on this boy. Worth noting too, he cannot be stunned while he's on his dude, but once he's off his dude, you can stun him. So once he's off his dude, he usually dies really fast because you hit him with a stun as Outlaw, he's prey on the weak, so he's taking bonus damage, and they die pretty fast. And just watch your positioning. Outlaw has a huge advantage on all of this shit, like a big advantage. Kind of flies under the radar that acrobatic strikes makes it so you should not get hit by any of these cleaves. Other melee have a much tougher time because they have the shorter melee range. But you should not get hit by cleaves here. One cool trick up here too, if in your path, like you're deciding you want to pull this, like a lot of paths will shroud this. I haven't pulled this in a while. We usually shroud this now. But you can't blind the stuff that's in the dust, but you can sap it. So for whatever reason, if you're trying to split this pack up, like say you're trying to like CC the two snakes, kill the big boys, and then go kill the snakes afterwards or some shit, which is like a viable strat on certain weeks. You can sap the striker, and then you would be able to blind the venomous Ophidian. What a name. So that they don't come. Don't make sure you don't do the opposite. If you try to sap this boy and blind that guy, it won't work. You can't blind in the sand. The marksman we've seen before, so let's just kill these boys, and then we'll talk about the snakes. And if you are pulling this, you can, oh man, I got hit by the breath. You can pull them back and the marksman will start to come. They obviously have a max range, and they try to get in range. Be careful when this is going on, because your tank will likely run them far away, and then pull them back onto the marksman so you can cleave. And that's like prime time to get cleaved. So just watch your shit. Here we go, we gouge one of those. And now he has lightning shield debuff. Debuff from the boss, repeated in the dungeon again. The venomous boys don't do shit. They just put, well, alright, it's not that they don't do shit. They do damage, and they put a poison debuff. The strikers should be your priority kill target. They put the dust clouds on the ground, which can be stunned and gouged, but they will recast. So you pretty much want to be using your stuns and gouges to delay the cast as long as you can and hope to kill it before it gets the cast off. Because if marksman and shit gets stuck inside the dust, it gets really annoying. Tamers are essentially Crawlus Riders, just without the lad, and they also cast, what is the name of the ability? Oh, he doesn't do this. These guys do. Scouring Sand, which is a frontal again that you want to dodge. Makes you take more damage. These mobs you probably aren't pulling. The mature Krolliks, they're extremely inefficient. They're really not worth. They're 4 count. And they're more health than everything. Oh, they're the same health as everything else. I guess they're not inefficient. They're just not good. They have positioning requirements. And this dungeon, you're usually trying to skip stuff. Like, you're kind of overcount. Like, these 2 packs here, I rarely pull anymore. Almost always shroud these 2 packs. Just because you end up with, like, there's so much stuff that you have to kill in here. That you're trying to pull as efficiently as you can. These packs just aren't. Like, that pack is worth 8 count. That pack up there is worth 14. And it's not, takes about as much time as pulling something in here, which you can get, like, 16 to 20 out of a pack. Rider we talked about, so we're just gonna yoink by this guy. Incubators and Tenders both need 1 kick. Incubators drop lightning shit on the ground. For speed, like say you're pulling a big pack and you don't have enough kicks, for the sake of being as fast as possible, ignoring kicks on the Incubators is better. For the sake of being as safe as possible, ignoring kicks on the Tenders is better. So Incubators put the bullshit on the ground that you have to dodge or it does damage. It's pretty easy to move out of, but when you're pulling with Krollisk Riders and you have cleaves and shit going on, or if there's other Incubators in the group that cast the Pyrrhic Blast when they die, sometimes the positional requirements get a little sketch, which is why I say for speed, it's good to ignore those kicks and only kick Tenders, whereas for safety, it's better to kick the Incubators and just let the Tenders cast. So the Tenders will cast Greater Healing Potion? Lesser Healing Potion? I don't know, some healing potion. And once they cast successfully once, they won't cast ever again. So you only have to kick these boys if you're consistently kicking them, which you should, because it heals for a lot, and it can heal the riders. It heals like random shit around it, right? So I recommend going the kick the Tender route if you have to ignore a kick and not ignoring the Incubator, or not ignoring the Tenders and ignoring the Incubators. But you can also just pull in a way that you have enough kicks for everything. The Tenders will also run to like an egg, so like this boy, and they'll drain this egg to heal themselves, and then they get a damage buff as well. Like these boys have a damage buff when you pull them because they're over here draining. Use Gouge on this, use Blind on this, use Stun on this. Once the cast starts, so they have to run over to the egg, start casting Drain, and then you use your Disrupt, and then they'll stop casting and come fight you again. So we gotta kill all this shit to spawn the boss. But that's it for this room. It's just Tenders, Incubators, and the Riders. So as long as you have your kick sorted, and you can see this buff here, that's the buff they get when they finish draining. Yeah, it's Greater Healing Potion, I was right. This actually might be tough to kill. Well, I guess not. They're not gonna heal again. See, we gouge. That boy just like stopped for no reason, but okay. We have a breath we're dodging. So now because those guys cast the healing potion, they're not casting it again, as you can see. This guy's got scales, we don't really care. We're gonna go fight some other shit. The Incubator's here. I'll try to not insta-kill him. So you can see the blast, and here's lightning in the bottle that goes down. You move out of that. It's kind of hard to see, and the damage starts before the animation does, right? So the animation takes a little bit to happen. So if you see yourself taking damage, just be like, oh shit, and move out. Oh, they also cast these poisons. I forgot to mention that. So all the mobs down here, well, not all the mobs, but the Incubators and the... Can you blast? I guess he doesn't. The Incubators and the Tenders cast poison. I don't know what the poison's called. It's like poison spit or some shit. Maybe I'll get him to cast one. I'll show you this animation. See how it's like faint, but it's already doing damage and then it spawns? Be aware of that. Venomous spit. You can collect these off. If you get more than one, you probably should. Also communicate with your healer. Like sometimes you won't realize, but you'll have 2 stacks, but the tank's not in damage, so the healer is able to bark you, or they're gonna dispel you or some shit, and then you cloak. Because it can be removed by poison dispel, right? So that's just somewhere where good communication with your healer is important to make sure that you don't overlap cloak in a situation where you didn't need cloak. And we're lagging all of a sudden. Good. That's what we want. We really want this. But that goes for like a lot of dungeons. Communication with your healer as to when you should be cloaking or when you should be fainting or when you should be vialing. Are we gonna DC from the game? Dude, it's just Warcraft tonight. I was having issues logging in too. Like, look at this. This is still. I'm not in the lightning anymore. Yo, please don't scuff the video. Come on, man. Alright, I guess we have to fight this boss, but I am worried that I am gonna lag so hard that he kills me. Let's put some markers down. So, in the last phase of the boss, when he hits 20%, the boss will spawn some boys that come help him out over here. It's the same boys from before. It's the Ophidians and the Strikers. The Strikers spawn on X side. 2 of them spawn over here. And the Ophidians spawn on Moon side. 2 of them spawn over here. They're regular ass mobs, so they can be CC'd, so you don't have to deal with them. So I highly recommend not using your gouge on the boss, or not using your blind on the boss, rather. Gouge you can use on the mechanic I'll show in a second, so that you have blind up for one of the Strikers when this spawns. Because if you get the dust clouds on the boss and it's like a monk-ass finish and you're trying not to die and you're dodging a bunch of poison and all this shit, you end up in bad situations. If you have enough CCs, I would recommend CCing all 4 and like talking about that with your group. But if you only have 2 that you can use, definitely get the Strikers. Luckily, the Resto Druid can get 2 of them. Hibernate works and Root works. Like, they'll just be rooted over here. So if you have a Resto Druid, the Resto Druid can handle 2, and then you guys can handle like the rest of your group with Imprison or Para or Blind or Sheep or all those things. You can handle all that shit over there. So let's see if I am not lagging enough. Okay, cool. So on this boss, in the first phase, he does his breath. In the second phase, he does his blind. So the breath, you want to be pointing in a way that you maximize your available space, which is usually like, I guess we didn't do Underrot yet, so Underrot is not a good comparison. But you just want the breath to exist like on the other breath. And then this phase, first phase down below is always 4 Ophidians. So this is just do damage and don't die. And maybe cloak off their poison. See this lad? The poison will only be applied to the person taking melees, I believe, but the threat table is a little bit weird. So your tank might not have threat. And you might take melees. So just be aware. If you have X amount of stacks and you're dying and your healer says, yo, cloak, then you should cloak. Now in this phase, he will only cast Blinding Sand. He won't cast Noxious Breath. So in this phase, you can stand behind the boss. You can stand whenever you want. Do whatever you want. And then you turn away. Wait, don't push. Turn away before the sand cast ends. You still take damage, but you take less damage, and you don't get disoriented. 40%, he'll go down again. There we go. This time, Strikers spawn. Strikers drop the sand, so you want to be using things like Knock, AoE stuns, Ring, whatever, to keep these guys from casting. It's pretty important that you don't between the eyes the same thing twice, because you're probably using 2 AoE stuns. So you don't want to DR these guys, or you want to try to avoid DRing as much as you can. So between the eyes 1, and then if you get another between the eyes in this phase, definitely between the eyes another boy. And not him. Now we're in the last phase, and at 20%, here he does both. He does breath and Blinding Sand. So you gotta be aware. Do both mechanics. He does a little spits afterwards. 20% the ads are gonna spawn. Do they spawn on normal? Please don't make me a liar. Maybe it's not 20%. Maybe it's on a timer. I always thought it was 20%. Maybe it's 20% or timer, whichever comes first. I don't know. You're there, whatever. Anyways, they spawn. You hit one with a blind. You're a happy guy. Maybe it's just been so consistently 20% on like 23 and 24 just based on the timer. That's what I thought it was. And that's this boss in this room. Pretty simple. Then you have Agitated Nimbus. So these guys will do 2 casts. They will cast Accumulate Charge, and they will cast Release Charge. Melee kick cannot get every Accumulate Charge, so you need a 2-person kick rotation on this. Or you can have something like a Demon Hunter or a Mage or a Shaman solo one by purging the buff. You can also use torrents if your kicks get like out of whack. So the accumulate charge, I'm gonna let this go off. So this makes it so he does more damage. That's all of his damage. So his melees on the tank are doing more, and then his release charge, which is the AoE on the group, is also doing more. Here we go. Yoing! So you want to make sure this guy just doesn't have charges ever. So usually set up a rotation. You'll be like, I got first on this, you got second on this, blah, 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 whatever. Talk to your group. And that's that. And then we have, I want to kill a Stormcaller solo because I want to kill him slow. So let me kill this Nimbus. Here I'm going to torrent off the buff so he doesn't have it because I don't want him to have it because it's better if he doesn't have it. Not that it matters, but it's better. And then we kill him before he... Oh, man, he got one. So Stormcallers put some bullshit on the ground, and then they cast Shock. Shock, they just, like, target you, and they own you. Does a bunch of damage. The other shit just happens, like, by being in combat with them. Let me see if Gouge... I actually never checked for this. Okay, they do recast if you Gouge. I thought that's what that was the case. Let's see, what about if we stun? So you just want to dodge this stuff, and then you can't get every kick on this either. This is a two-person kick rotation as well for all the shocks. You can, however, if your tank is paying attention, it's targeted him, like it will target the tank. You can spell reflect if you're running with a warrior. Now this is important. This sap, where I sap this boy, is pretty important. So you can pull this Nimbus and not get him, but he needs to be like in these spots. Like he needs to be inside this triangle when you sap him, or else he'll social pull with the Nimbus, even though he's sapped. So after the sap breaks, you'll have to fight him. And I think I got that. I just kind of like randomly sapped him, and I'm pretty sure I have this in the right spot. Because a lot of the time you can even just run down here, right? If he's sapped, you just run by and you won't get the Stormcaller or whatever. Yo, I need my markers. You need to not pull me out of this. Thank you. Let me make the triangle again. So yeah, he pats around, and you want him inside this triangle when you sap. Blue's probably too close. This is like just on the cusp, but you'll see he pats around like over there. That's not good. He'll pat back, and we'll get another sap on him to show. He pats over here. Pretty good. We got him. He's in the triangle. We're chilling. Now we can pull this. The dervishes just do fucking damage. Be prepared to cloak during these. Maybe not when there's two, but if you're fighting 3 or more, be prepared to cloak. Be prepared to vial. Don't die. Health pot, health stone. They just do damage. And then always be aware where the tank's standing, because all they'll do is they'll just AoE blast, and then randomly they'll port on top of the tank and do a big damage in a radius on top of the tank. So if you're on top of the tank and you're in that, you take damage that you didn't need to take. And now we fight. Now it begins. No! Now it ends. See, that's what it looks like. And I say the tank, but I mean whoever their current threat target is. They port too. So if you like rip aggro, you're about to get ported on. So be careful. Yoink. They also function with affixes in like a very strange way, and it takes a long time to get out of. They have like this weird dying sequence, so it takes like multiple seconds to get out of combat with them once they die. So pretty much, if you don't get your pre-pot on this pack, don't pot in here because you're not gonna get it back up. Wait, what is this? Capture a boy. Just because of the way that combat timings work and how you get stuck in combat, you won't end up with your potion back up, and then you won't have DPS potion for the boss, which is a no-no. And don't try to potion before this, too. Because you might, like, think you're out of combat, unless you're very, very, very aware of your combat timings and when you leave combat after those. It's difficult to get a potion for these pulls. So usually you get a DPS potion on that pack, and then you don't get one until the boss. Which is okay. It's better to play it safe and not get a DPS potion on these packs and make sure you have 2 for the boss. Because the timer in here is like pretty forgiving. Most of the timer is, can you kill Galavast? And if you can, you probably time the key. These guys also function in a weird way with Sanguine and I don't know what else offhand. Where they drop 5 pools. It's like 5 little boys die for some reason. Alright, we captured him. What did we get for this? Doesn't say, because I'm in the dungeon. Okay. Now, Galavast, you just have to soak pillars and not die. This is a dungeon that on a big key I take elusiveness. Feint affects... So the boss does 2 things. He does a bunch of AoE random damage. Like he just does an AoE blast periodically with no cast time. Like it's just pulsing damage. And then he does the pillars. Feint affects... Feint without elusiveness affects the random AoE blast, but does not affect the pillars. So the times that you're like actually in danger of dying and where the damage that you're taking is significant is when you're both soaking a pillar and an AoE blast goes off. So if you can run elusiveness, this is like huge DR on this fight. So you have the elusiveness, you have the 30% DR happening on the shit from the pillars, and then you have the 40% DR happening on the AoE blast. So you're safe from both. It doesn't like double dip in the sense that it doesn't do 30% plus 40% on the AoE blast. This is just 30% on non-area effect, but you keep the effect where 40% on area effect happens. So you have DR from both, which makes you really safe to take pillars. And Cloak also works to reset your stacks. So while Cloak is active, you will not gain stacks, and you will also clear all your stacks. So if you're going to Cloak, it's good to Cloak like later into a soak, like when you're high stacks. To, you know what I mean. Anyways, let's fight this guy. I wonder if he'll kill me. Because I don't know that I can soak everyone. We'll see. But this boss is just, your healer has to be good, and you have to have good communication with your group. We'll feint and try to catch one of the AoEs. I don't think I caught one. But definitely be vialing pretty much on cooldown. Cloak, you can usually save your cloak until, like, after Lust is gone, and you'll still get 2. Like, if it's a big key, you'll still get 2. I'm just gonna let this go off, dude. I'm not soaking these. Just own me, dude. How much does this hit for? So if the key is big enough, especially on Tyrannical Week... Alright, that does no damage. We're just fighting him like this. On a Tyrannical Week, the boss is like almost always gonna go over 3 minutes if it's a big enough key. So with that, you can wait for Lust to end. And then use your cloak once the healer is like not lusted, so you're actually like helping. Wow, this guy might fucking kill me on normal. Fuck off, man. I guess I was like not paying attention, not doing good damage, but let's eat something, dude. But anyways, you want to be smart about your cloaks. Maybe you coordinate with your healer that you cloak so that he can get a mana potion channel. Maybe you coordinate when like he just doesn't have anything and needs some time to chill. But you want to get as many uses as you can in the fight that are useful. Which is 1 if the key's kind of low, and it'll be 2 as the key pushes up like above 20 and shit. But that boss is just communication and pumpage. You do as much damage as you can in here. I actually really like running Kimballs. I have this on because of my leech set when I'm doing solo content or where all my leech pieces I have Kimballs on, but I really like Kimballs in this dungeon. It's mostly, like I said, like the timer is not super difficult. So if wearing Kimballs helps you kill Galv, then you wear Kimballs. This bridge, annoying as fuck. Just dodge shit, run through, blah, blah, blah. These cast on a random person. 2, it might be 3. I think 2 people can handle all the kicks on him though. He waits a long time. And then how am I gonna do the eye solo here without running into conscripts? I guess we'll figure it out, dude. So you can hook while you have, oh, we got a good pat. We can solo this. You can hook while you have the boy in your hand, right? So I'm gonna hook, yoink, toss, yoink, pick up, toss, pick up. Oh man, they fucking got me. No, 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 Orb Guardian. They're not having this. I'm gonna tell you something about the Orb Guardians here in a sec. Let me just get this lad in the fucking hole. Can you go in? What's the deal? Alright, cool. So Orb Guardians function in a really sketchy way. They're the boys that try to come take the lad from you and run it back to the thing. So you can see them as you see. He's blinded, right? But when that blind ends, even if you're through here and you've like vanished or shadow melded or done anything off, this man is still coming if he's in the blind. So you have to tag him out of the blind, then get out of range, then use your vanish. And even then, look, he's still coming. Alright, so you ever have something that you think you have solved and then you don't because this game sucks? That's it. Moral of the story is, try not to use blinds and shit. It's much better to just use a gouge as you're going by him. And you can usually get by him before he gets to you, right? Like I fucked up there because I had to fight these conscripts in the middle. But usually somebody's pulling these away while you're soloing. So try not to use blind or para or gouge or like any CC like that if you don't have to. It makes this whole thing sketch, because like what you do here is you'll either kill the shit, or oftentimes you'll have a rogue vanish and then get a engineering battle res on the healer, or you'll have the healer, you have somebody die and the healer battle res is somebody that can also res before you go down, or you can go all the way to the bottom. Both are fine options. And then res down there. I'll show you the sweet spot at the bottom. But if you don't, you'll shroud through this. You know, shroud past these boys, and then you'll sap the Plague Doctor on the left here. So your team can just go yoink right through. But right here, the little diamond, you're safe. You won't. Let's make sure I don't eat my own words. See, I'm not in body aggro range of any of these mobs here. So this is where you want to res. If you're resing down here. A little sketch on Quaking Week. Like really sketch on Quaking Week actually. On Quaking Week it might be better to go like into here. But this is a little riskier. Right? If you come in here, I'm chilling. Doo doo. These boys cast Lava Burst. It's just over a 2-kick rotation. So if you kick at the very last second, you can almost get everyone with 2 kicks assigned to each hexer, but eventually one will miss. It's usually okay. As long as the person doesn't get double targeted. And if they do, they can use a personal. Or rogues can vanish these casts off as well. Like, dude, he's not casting me. Fuck, he resets so fast. God damn. So keep a look out for that. It's hard to communicate because the cast is pretty short, but if I see him getting double casted on, I try to call like don't kick, don't kick, don't kick really fast. And then I'll just vanish them off. These guys also can't be stunned or anything, like it's just kicks to interrupt the lava burst. And they put flame shock out too, which does some big boy damage. So be the lookout for cloaks if your kicks are getting scuffed or something, or like you getting targeted by 2 and you have the flame shock on you. Then we have the boss. Boss is pretty straightforward. As a DPS, you don't really do anything. You hit hexers and you cleave down guardians. Listen to your tank here. Your tank will hopefully be communicating if he needs the guardian to die or not, depending on if he's in danger, because he has this stacking damage taken debuff. So you really want to be... You just want to communicate well on this boss. And when the guardian dies, the orb also spawns too. So if like the guardian dies and it takes you forever to kill the rest of the hexers, you're not gonna have an orb for the healer, which makes this boy take... Oh shit, I actually can't kill this boss. Makes your healer... Yeah, because I can't heal. I don't think I have any bandages or anything on me. But anyways, he gets a buff that makes him take some shit. What do I do? I can't kill this boss. Anyways, communicate. They also, it didn't show a normal, but Plague Doctors also spawn. it's usually a good idea to, depending on how long the phase is going to be, kill one and CC another, or just CC the one that spawns and then fight it during this phase, right? So if you don't have to deal with getting kicks on the Plague Doctor, because he casts Chain Lightning and Snake Charm, and you want to kick everything. Stuns also work on him, which is worth noting. Stuns and Gouge, and because his casts are very long, that's very effective. But if you can get a blind on one and then kill during this phase while your healer is just healing this and there's not really anything going on, it makes it much easier and it makes the other phases less hectic. Final thing to note before, I guess I'm vanishing because I can't kill this boss. After this, so you'll do one phase, you'll heal this, he'll be at 70%. Then you'll do the phase again. Usually this is the phase you lust in if you have it up by now. The second phase is the harder one. There's more going on. The damage goes out faster. It's just more hectic. You'll lust there. And then the third phase, you'll see the reason we skip all this trash is because you fight it with the boss buff. In the last phase, the boss gives you a buff where you take no damage and you do a bazillion damage. So when that happens, you send your healer or anybody mobile, but it's better to have the healer go because like you're in here doing damage and the healer doesn't have to do anything during this phase. Your healer goes up, pulls all this shit, so he'll get everything up there, up here, up here, up here. Make sure you target or tag the Heart Guardians. Sometimes the Heart Guardians won't come if you don't specifically tag them. And then you bring them in here, you kill them with the boss, and you want to make sure that you kill all the trash mobs before the last Hexer dies. So like usually we'll mark one, like for example, we'll mark Moon. And this will be the guy that we don't kill. So like even if the last Reaping Wave spawns, it's not that big a deal. Because you're just going to finish this Hexer that has like no HP and you all do a bazillion damage right now. But if you finish the boss encounter, you could lose the buff. I don't remember how I haven't fucked it up in a while, so I don't remember the exact iteration. Like as long as you don't drop combat or something, maybe you keep the buff, but I'm pretty sure once the boss is done, you drop the buff. And then your tank can just like get one shot if he has like a bunch of Heart Guardian stacks still, because there's still trash up and you finish the boss. So be careful like to just, we usually mark the Hexers. We at least mark like the back two. And if anything with a mark is still alive, you're killing trash. Like this stuff is dying instead of the stuff that's marked. Also worth noting, don't vanish during that phase. Because you can vanish, and if like you drop combat from the vanish because you're not hitting him, you can lose the buff. It's not consistent though, if I'm remembering right. I'm just like so in the habit of not vanishing that I forget little things like what caused it, if it's like 100% or not. But there's really no need to vanish. You're taking like you're taking no damage. There's nothing for you to vanish. If you have threat, just parry or just stop hitting that guy. Just hit something else. Your tank will get the threat back. Is the play rather than losing the buff. And that's it for Temple. I guess we'll look through here and make sure I didn't miss anything. Skip these two mobs. We talked about that. This is also a good shroud spot here. It's a little bit of a tricky shroud, and 2 rogues makes it a lot easier. But shrouding through this nonsense is like very good. These mobs suck. So you have to do the maze, and then you get the good sap on this boy, and then you come around and pull these 3 from the other side, and your whole team's through. Depending on your pathing, you could also shroud this guy. We've decided that he's just worth, though. Count gets a little weird in here, and the 11 really helps make it efficient. Especially for reaping timers as well. Also worth noting, in MDT, if you are 4 count short, and we're going to make a video in the future talking about count versus percent, and how I think if you're still using percent, you're just wrong. Maybe it works for you, but you're using more brain power than if you were using count. So like when I say count, I'm talking about what is each mob worth in count, which is this number, not the percent number. So you need 220 count to finish Temple. So there's an issue in MDT. Naga tried to fix this because, alright, Temple's scuffed as fuck when it comes to count, just because of the Heart Guardians. So Heart Guardians are worth 6. But on teaming week, Heart Guardians are worth 4. Which doesn't make sense. Usually, that's not how teaming typically works. Teaming, things are worth the same amount. You just need more. But for whatever reason, on teaming week, not only do you need more, right? You need 264 instead of 220, but the Heart Guardians are worth 2 less. So, I'm pretty sure Dilemma reached out to Naga and told him about this so that he could fix MDT, and he didn't quite understand what the issue was or know the best way to implement this because they're worth different on different weeks, which is just like so scuffed. But anyways, on a normal week, on a non-teaming week, when you're making your MDT path, you only need 216 count in MDT because you will kill these 2 Heart Guardians at the end. Assuming you're pulling these 2 Heart Guardians are actually worth 6, so you get 4 more count from these than is listed in MDT. So that's why this pathing that's 217 out of 220, this is actually 1 over count rather than being 3 short. So when you're making your pathing, just keep that in mind. I see a lot of people, I'll get link pass all the time. They're like 220 out of 220. I'm like, bro, we are over by a whole mob. Like, we can cut something. Or even more than that. Like, you could be over by like 2 full mobs sometimes. But then on teaming week, it's correct. So teaming week, you have to actually get. So like we'd have to pull what, like this in the Stealth Boys. Probably add that, and that's your route on teaming. Yeah, I guess that's good. So teaming, you need exact count in MDT, whereas normal weeks you can be 4 short, and that's MDT only. That's not like if you're 4 short count in the game, you're fine. It's just because of the issue with the Heart Guardians. But that's it for Temple. We ended up going kind of long here. I thought this was going to be a short one, but I just talked a lot. Full head. Hope you guys have been liking the videos. Sorry they haven't been coming as often or the streams been missing. I've been... I don't know. It's just been a bad week of Mythic Plus, and Hearthstone has been really fun. I've been playing a shitload of Hearthstone. I'm actually going to stream that tonight after I get this video uploaded for a little bit. Hopefully you guys will hang out. I get it if it's not your thing. But anyways, if you like the videos, please like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit me in the comments with any feedback you have. If there's anything you don't like, you think could be better. If it's on the production side of things, it's not going to get better. I don't know how to do anything. I just know how to talk. And then we have 3 more dungeons. I think we do Motherlode next. So keep a lookout for Motherlode. Yeah, we have Motherlode, Underrot, and Siege left. And we're saving Underrot for last because it's my favorite. And there's not really a lot going on. Well, I guess there is. There's a good amount actually going on in Underrot. But we're saving that for last just because it's my favorite dungeon. I think it's the best dungeon in BFA. Maybe by a mile. If Freehold didn't have Sky Captain Crag, Freehold would be close, but it does. So Underrot wins. And I will see you guys. I'll see you guys when I see you. Thanks for watching.